Welcome to Sculpture Studios. Working for a charity organisation for this project, where we've been contacted by Hannah Lyles from St Catherine's Hospice. We've created items for art trails in the past in a similar fashion, where blank white canvases of sculpture are created for local schools, artists and businesses to decorate and effectively sponsor the sculpture for the cause. Usually there's some sort of animal, or in our case a model aircraft, but for St Catherine's however, we're creating some large stylised hearts for their Heart to Heart campaign. Depending on how many sponsors are getting involved, we'll be creating anywhere between 20 to 30 of these, and undoubtedly we'll have some great artwork to show you at the end of the project. In the meantime, it's time to start blocking the sculpture out in polystyrene or styrofoam and create the master pattern. Now, if you're familiar with the way we work, you'll know that hot wires are used to remove the bulk of the material quickly, and here Aden's using nail brushes to take off the harsh corners. He'll gradually progress to wire brushes and sandpapers, providing his tools aren't stolen, and once he's happy with the overall form, a soft water-based filler is applied. Going over with the soft water-based plaster filler helps to lose that polystyrene bead texture. As it's water-based, this means it air dries and it can be sanded down to a relatively smooth finish. This is just a regular domestic plaster paste that comes pre-mixed in a large tub from home construction stores. Though it's not really suitable for anything substantial, anything that needs to be strong or to go outside, it's perfect for a basic polystyrene pattern like this that's going to have a mould made with the pattern disposed of afterwards. A mould's being created for this job as we want up to 30 identical casts, all made strong and durable, made from glass fibre, so a mould is the best method all round. Once Aden's happy with the master pattern and everything's been coated and sanded back to a good finish, it's time to invite the client down to the studio. This is a good opportunity for Hannah to speak to Aden, and this is the first time she's met him face to face as opposed to just email or phone. It's an important part of the process from a sculptural point of view, as at this stage we can still make changes if anything needs to be adjusted. This is before we progress with anything that involves less error-friendly and more expensive materials like glass fibre. As these sculptures are going to be out in the public domain, and the artist, the sponsor and the charity details need to be included on a plaque somewhere, we're actually going to be creating some bases that go along with these. In the same fashion, a master pattern is made with a durable production mould so that replica casts can be created. At this point in time, the subject of concrete is being mentioned as the material to create the bases from, so they end up being nice and heavy and can't easily be moved by the public. The hearts can then somehow be bolted onto the bases so that hopefully nobody runs off with one. On to the mould making now. The hearts had a split line created around the entire edge so the shape can be moulded in two pieces. We go over with a gel coat of resin so the mould has a nice smooth interior, and then back this up with glass fibre. This is what's known as a production mould, which needs to be strong enough to withstand multiple casting processes. When all the resin is cured, we split the mould into its two pieces and remove the polystyrene pattern from the inside. We make sure we clean up the interior of the mould so we stand the best possible chance of a nice clean finish on the beginning of each cast. When we're happy with the interior surface, we give the mould a buff with a hard wax. In between the mould and the resin and the glass fibre being laid up for each cast, this wax acts as a release agent that ensures the cast can pop out of the mould. We go in first with a white gel coat layer as a smooth white base before backing this up with glass fibre. Once we've popped the fiberglass halves out of the mould, we clean up the edges and any marks on the surface that require attention. We need to make sure we take care of every part of the project, and every project in the studio for that matter, as there are saboteurs in our midst. In order to join the two halves together from the inside, we only have a very small space to gain access. Aden made sure that this was large enough when this was first being carved, but in order to get right down there, this will require a somewhat longer and much skinnier arm. With each cast being joined inside the job using glass fibre and left to set, the exterior is then cleaned up. We remove any flash material that may be sticking through the gap, and we proceed with car body fillers to make this seam line invisible. Now, people may have a personal qualm with the video that we post, but one of the main things we get commented on is when there's a lack of dancing. I mean, we're a professional studio, and from the waist up, that sort of behaviour simply won't be tolerated. In order for the hearts to fix onto the bases properly, in a practical way for Hannah's team on site, we're coming up with various methods using different nuts and bolts. Of course, speaking of nuts. Some of these bases are being made from concrete, by which we've actually struggled to source a local company that would be happy to accommodate a relatively small and seemingly simple job of filling a few moulds with a good end result. We've had a few created in this fashion, not quite to the finish we desired, but yes, understandably, the concrete bases will be very heavy. They'll be difficult for the public to move, but this also proves problematical for the installation team as well. We've therefore recommended fiberglass as a much more practical option. This will require no more than 1 or 2 people to move the heart and the base, whereby the hollow interior can simply have weights added to hold it down. The heart can be installed on top, and the process is simply reversed to move it to a new location. There's no need for expensive heavy machinery, and all can be done completely by hand. So here is our solution. Okay, here we are with the fixing of the fiberglass hearts onto the fiberglass bases. The first thing that needs to happen for any hearts that have not yet been matched up with the corresponding base, these need to be placed on top with the brackets, and holes need to be drilled into the fiberglass base itself. The way this is done, we've created metal brackets with a long groove and a single hole. These are placed directly over these big heads on the inside of each heart, 2 on each end. A nut goes on the other side, and when this is placed on, a hole then needs to be drilled through the centre of each bracket, and ideally once a heart's been matched up to a base and drilled, if the heart can stay with the same base, that way you know everything lines up properly. So that's how you drill the holes and get everything in the correct position. When it comes to actually installing these on site, we've created these square washers which essentially work as a spacer between the bracket and the fiberglass, and in the majority of cases these are threaded on the inside, so that to save having to have any sort of fixing on the inside of the fiberglass, the bolt will go straight through this bracket, straight through this threaded spacer and into the job. So it's this spacer that locks it on. These are anti-tamper bolts, so that no normal head screwdriver can undo these. And this weighted base can be filled with sandbags or weights or anything like that, so they can go on site. And once it's removed, you simply remove the weights from the inside, and then you can take the two pieces apart separately. With all of the projects we take on, the videos could easily be condensed to just a couple of minutes long. But this isn't a 5-minute craft channel, nor are the projects in and out of the studio in the space of just a few short days. There's actually a lot more work, particularly in the research and development process, than first meets the eye, and we like giving you guys at home a bit more of a comprehensive backstage look as to what actually goes on. This orange heart here, for example, we've been asked by the client to complete here in the studio. The brief is to have money put into the base of the heart, and for a light and possible sound effect of a heartbeat to happen anytime a member of the public does so. Lovely idea on paper, but bringing it into reality is another story. For the internal workings of this project, we have Simon here from Cube 3 down the road from us, and he's developed a mechanism that should have the desired effect. The heart needs to run independently power-wise, so car batteries are being used inside, lasers with a very specific strength to detect something as thin as a £5 note to trigger it, and of course the lights on the inside having that heart pulse effect. For our part, we had to use an almost clear cast resin for the fiberglass so the light can shine through from the inside, and we went through multiple paint samples to achieve the desired finish. Like I said, much more work than first meets the eye, and thank you very much, Simon, for your dedication on this. The amount of times this needed to be tweaked, recalibrated, it was very, very much appreciated. No doubt there was a fantastic amount of work put in by the sponsors elsewhere, coming up with numerous ways these hearts could be decorated, and here we have the final result. St Catherine's Hospice have a website for their Heart to Heart campaign, and for the run over the summer of 2019, a downloadable app as well. Here you can find and follow the art trail on an interactive map and search for the hearts for yourself. It's always great to see the different ways in which these sculptures can be imagined. As each and every one is unique, they either reflect a purely artistic, a group collaborative, or in some ways a more personal touch. The hearts were dotted around West Sussex and Surrey, and along with 11 wire hearts that were created by local school groups, each formed a new focal point in the community that St Catherine's Hospice provide care for. The idea of the heart itself better reflected the feeling, the family orientation and care of the hospice, as opposed to choosing just a singular animal to represent the cause like you would with many other art trails. The heart-to-heart concept not only reflects the journey as you search for the sculptures around the area, but also the deep and sometimes difficult conversations that come hand in hand with running a hospice. These 3D creations are always a fantastic way to raise both awareness and hopefully raise funds for the charity as well. I don't just mean the orange heart as a donation box along the way, but potentially inspire a more charitable donation when these hearts go up for auction. As with many of the art trails, these sculptures have been sponsored by local companies, small organisations, and even local artists and authors as well. Often, where we're commissioned to make, say, 10 to 15 of these at the beginning of the project, as soon as these groups begin to promote the art trail by showing off their artwork, other groups want to become involved, and here we are 26 hearts later. This is good for us, as it obviously promotes more work, and good for the cause, promoting more sponsors for the sculptures. Nowadays, some of the easiest ways to get the word out is simply using social media platforms like Facebook, Twitter and Instagram. It's the way of the world nowadays to be able to share things online so quickly, so that's why 3D promotional material works so well. From a visual point of view, it stands out, it makes people want to interact with it, and makes them want to share it online. Often, the bigger the sculpture, the bigger the reaction, so that's why oversized objects like these are always right up our street. We'd like to thank Hannah Shorter, who commissioned us with the work, who married to become Hannah Lyles by the end of the project. Hopefully the trail has been a huge success, and we look forward to any charity trails further down the line. Please feel free to leave any comments below, as they're always appreciated, and hit the subscribe button for our latest videos. You can like Sculpture Studios on Facebook and follow @Aden Hynes on Twitter, and for more of our work, visit sculpturestudios.co.uk. Thank you very much for watching.